So this is our first clue that the major arcana can be fitted into the tree of life. To become the magician is perhaps the meaning of life. Becoming the magician is the next stage of your consciousness then becoming a star or a planet. So my definition of God would be the same as Pythagoras, that God is everything. If I wasn't so, I want 7.5 million, I might have got 7.5 billion. It's a square of 4 tarot cards which fit together, where you've got femininity on one side, masculinity on the other, the more spiritual realm in one direction and the more earthly realm in the other. Well, the thing is, we've seen that before, and when we look at the tree of life, the left-hand side femininity, right-hand side masculinity, down the middle you've got this sort of equilibrium pillar, at the top Kether, the crown of God, you've got the more spiritual direction, and with Malkuth at the bottom, the more earthly direction. So this is our first clue that the major arcana can be fitted into the tree of life, and therefore, because there's 22 pathways on the tree of life, we can use that as a canvas to enable us to put this jigsaw puzzle together. You've got the 4 cardinal virtues in there, which are obviously really important to people: strength of mind, prudence, strength of body, fortitude, justice and temperance. Those 4 things acting together can potentially help you to become more enlightened as a person. You've got the fool, the hermit, the magician, the fool being the unenlightened being, the hermit wanting to seek enlightenment, and the magician the enlightened being. And that seems to be the lifeline. That's kind of like the direction that we should be going in. To become the magician is perhaps the meaning of life. Because when you're the magician, you can exact any synchronicity that you want.
Oh, wow.
There's different deities. We need to sort of understand how can we talk to them. Because it's by the grace of Hermes that the fool becomes the hermit. And it's by the grace of the solar intelligence that the hermit becomes the magician. So there's sort of like different stages in. Yeah.
So you said there's 4 deities?
Well, these 4 deities, the emperor, the empress, you can say that that's like Zeus and his wife Juno, well, Zeus and Hera, or Jupiter and Juno. The high priest, high priestess. These are 4 corners of our reality. Notice that they're numbered 2, 3, 4, 5 in the tarot. The number 1 card is the magician, because these 4 authorities are given way for that magician to rise to the top. Becoming the magician is the next stage of your consciousness then becoming, by the grace of the solar intelligence, it can become a star or a planet.
My child turned around to me and said she didn't believe in God, and I did not know how to answer her because I don't know the answers myself. So now I'm just asking everybody, do you believe in God? Yes or no? If not, why?
Well, I believe in my definition of God.
Okay.
And so my definition of God would be the same as Pythagoras, that God is everything.
Okay.
But then just to sort of quantify that, I would also say that it's everything and every thought. It's the total monad of everything, and the whole universe, and perhaps even multiverse. Because if that multiverse or universe is a conscious entity, then it's got its own personality, right? And so, I think that's what I think God is. If you look at the cells in your body, they're all independently conscious, but our experience of consciousness is at a meter cubed sort of resolution, where we're the totality of the society of cells in our body and some ghost in the machine. But then the ancients believed that the consciousness continued with resolution. You get up to the size of a planet and it's got its own consciousness. The sun's got its own consciousness. And who's to say it hasn't? Atoms are all, it's not just a fiery random ball. We know it's got an 11-year cycle. Maybe there's a big sort of like way that it can, work like a brain, and it's got its own consciousness. So I think that consciousness collates with resolution, and I think that God is the total consciousness of it all.
I love that answer.
The Earth goes around the sun. They allowed astronomy, but they didn't really want all of the spiritual stuff. But I think we can bring spiritual stuff into science. And consciousness is something that by definition, it's not physics, it's outside of the physical reality, but it's still something that's got properties. We know that it collates with resolution.
And although you say you come from the science point of view, I don't think it needs to be separate. Science and spirituality is, to me, the same thing.
Yeah, of course.
If anything, science proves that spirituality exists because it's all frequency, energy, summed up in a lovely formulated
The
way.
thing is though, the reason why it becomes really difficult to quantify is because if there is a higher intelligence there that doesn't want to be seen, it's hiding basically. And if it decides that you're a good person, it's going to try and allow you to see it by sending you more synchronicity or whatever. Then you've got this part of the puzzle which is a conscious thing that's going to play tricks and and not make experiments repeatable and things like that.
You say we are all divine.
Yeah, I think it was Francis Crick who was the discoverer of the the double helix, and he was on acid when he perceived of the double helix, but he said that the chances of that being able to put itself together through natural processes is the same as like a 747 jumbo jet self-assembling itself in a hurricane in a scrapyard. It's never going to happen. It's a much more plausible argument that we're somehow living in some kind of a simulation, and there is an intelligence behind this big game that can, manipulate our reality. That's what the ancients believed.
And do you believe that as well?
Yeah. The people that experience more of synchronicity is like, rather than getting on a train to go to Manchester, hitchhike. Because then you're putting yourself, you're surrendering yourself to divine, manipulation.
I see.
And then if you go into that with a positive energy and a prayer, then you'll see that. So you can invoke synchronicity, whereas most people don't invoke synchronicity in their life. Well, one of the things that came out of Tony Robbins for me years ago was, I want £7.5 million. Pictures on the wall, trying to manifest it, all the rest of it. But then the universe said, well, why do you want £7.5 million? Oh, because I want to have a nice house. Well, guess what? Never got the £7.5 million. Don't even own a house. Where am I living? In a nice house. So the universe has always got its own ways of doing things. And if you try and use your stupid monkey brain to try and tell it at what stage you need to be here, what stage you need to be there, and plan it too much, you're just tying the hands of the universe. It can't deliver.
I like that answer. Thank you.
Yeah. I think a lot of spiritual self-help people are realising that you need to be really loose with the objectives. Because that's when the magic comes in.
For sure.
Because if I wasn't so, I want £7.5 million, I might have got 7.5 billion.